Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. After a few days of fierce fightings on the Orekhov front line, the Russians launched a massive missile attack and massive drone attack all over the territory of Ukraine. The explosions the Ukrainians seen, and they spotted missiles above Odessa. There were very heavy explosions in Uman, and as a result of explosions and the level of explosions, we can say that the Russians managed to destroy another MO depot in that area. Furthermore, the explosions took place in Dnipro, and there were explosions in Balaklia, and there were a lot of explosions in Kharkiv. Probably the Ukrainians, as during the previous days, the Ukrainians managed to achieve a small, a success in the vicinity of Bakhmut. They're pushing in direction of Yahidne. They had managed to develop their bridgehead in the vicinity of Kurdyumovka and Klishevka along the channel, so probably they were sending some reserves through Balaklia in direction of Slavyansk-Kramatorsk, and the Russians attacked these Balaklia railroad station. For now we don't have any numbers about the results. And now let's talk about Orekhov front line. The Russians reported that as a result of fierce fightings in the vicinity of Lapkova, this settlement, the Russians managed to make a successful counter-offensive operation, and as a result of that attack, the forces of 128th Mountain Assault Brigade were forced to step back in direction of Stepovo. So currently, and probably, Lapkova neither under Ukrainian control nor under Russian control. Probably this territory currently is in the gray zone, and with a lot of different traps and mines that were established by the Russian forces. Probably this night Ukrainians will relaunch the counter-offensive operation in this area, trying to push the Russians back and trying to develop this bridgehead further. When talking about Orekhov front line itself, during the previous night the Ukrainians made at least two waves of attacks, two attempts. The first one along from Novodanilovka in direction of Rabotine. That was the first Ukrainian direction, and the second direction was along the fields between Rabotine and Verbovo, so somewhere in this direction. And the Russians are saying that as a result of those attacks, the Ukrainians lost just on this front line just exactly on this bridgehead. The Ukrainians lost around 9 tanks and something around 2 armored vehicles. But also some sources are saying that Ukrainians managed to penetrate this area a little bit and to establish control over northern Russian positions in this area. So probably maybe the Russians made few attempts to push the Ukrainians back, maybe not. We don't have information about this, but anyway, currently these positions on the south of Novodanilovka and on the north of Rabotine are currently located under Ukrainian control. Very interesting updates are coming from this entire front line. The total losses, not just about the south of Orekhov, but also, as I understand, with the Lapkova and with other settlements during the previous day. According to the press center of South Donetsk and Zaporozhye area, were around 13 tanks and 16 armored vehicles. We expect more new update from the Ministry of Defense, so probably that was some kind of short update or some partial update, who knows. Anyway, the Russians reported that the Ukrainians are changing tactics on this front line. If you remember, during the previous day they managed to mine the road between Rabotine and Tokmak. All this territory was under very heavy attack the Ukrainians were attacking this area using HIMARS, and they were trying to use distance method of mining. And today the Russians reported that Ukrainians brought and moved the drone squads to the combat line. So we'll see, because the Russians are saying that before the previous days, in the previous phases of this offensive operation near Orekhov, the Ukrainians lost total control over the drones. The Russians electro radio systems managed to shut down the entire connection in entire radio signal in this area. Probably the Ukrainians managed to find a solution how to restore access to their drones, and as a result of that, probably they moved their drone forces to the combat line, and starting today they will add another asset to their activity, also drones attack in this area, because the Russians are saying that based on the information we had, drones, the Ukrainian drone forces was the main asset of the Ukrainians on this front line, but they still haven't used them like very heavy. Now we are moving to Vremevsky tactical bridgehead. There are no updates from this area, from this territory. The Russians reported that during the previous hours, according to the local South Donetsk press center, the Ukrainians lost 8 tanks and 17 armored vehicles, and that information wasn't included in the main report of Ministry of Defense, just into local reports, so probably the losses are higher, so we need to wait a little bit, and probably today the Russians will provide us more information about the situation. Anyway, as you can see, the level of clashes has been reduced, and currently the Ukrainians are trying to attack the Russians just during the night period of time, and today today is summer, and the nights are very short, so the Ukrainians don't have a lot of time to make successful attacks, so they have just few hours, and after that they need to establish bridgehead and to prepare positions for the next night to attack. Very interesting update is coming from the Ukrainian authorities. If you remember, yesterday Zelensky came to Kherson, and my understanding was that he came here to control operation by himself. But today, for example, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine reported that Ukrainians probably are ready to sign peace agreement with the Russians, and the Ukrainians ready to sign peace agreement with the Russians if the Russians can change the goals of the special military operation. As you know, the goals of the special military operation is to demilitarize, denazification, demilitarization, and many other goals, and probably the Ukrainians ready to sign peace agreement if the Russians will allow the Ukrainians, at least what is going to left from Ukraine, to join NATO or probably European Union, or probably if the Russians are ready to sign peace agreement without demilitarization. So anyway, this is the first sign that Ukrainians are ready, and probably Zelensky visited Kherson not just to control the entire operation, but to see with his own eyes the entire situation and the total collapse of his forces on the Zaporozhye area. And as soon as he saw and realized everything, probably the Ukrainians started making this message that they are ready to sign. So they're starting the trading process, and now they want to get as much as possible benefits. Probably they don't want to lose their army, and many other things. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.